Right, ladies and gentlemen, it's my absolute joy and pleasure to introduce your headline act for this evening. Give a big round of applause. Come on, guys. Give it up. Let's start it going. That's it. Introduce the stage. Chalmers!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for that lovely, warm welcome. My name is Matthew, and I come from Glasgow in Scotland. And that is why it is necessary for me to start things off very slowly. Guys, before we get going, please join me in putting your hands together for Mr. Oliver Bear and the incredible opening comedians you heard from tonight. I am very grateful to them for getting the energy up as high as they did, because if you've ever heard me before, you'll know that that's about as high as the energy is likely to get. And it's just, there's different types of comedians. You've got your high energy comedians. Woo! And then you've got your low energy comedians. And then you've got Scottish low energy comedians. And it's not that Scottish people can't get excited, because it's sometimes tough to tell this with me, but I am absolutely fit to burst at the moment. It's just that sometimes I find that Scottish people don't have as much to get as excited about as others, you know, think about it, we've got a historically absolutely dreadful international men's football team. Lots and lots of rain. Lots and lots of racists. I really think that's why I settled in so quickly in Singapore, actually. I love Singapore, you know, everything is very easy for me in Singapore. Apart from the day-to-day communication, but let's be fair, that's nobody else's fault, is it really? It's just Scottish people, by design. We weren't blessed with a particularly good ability to enunciate. I really have no idea why I waited 32 years, moved to Asia, and then thought, now's my chance to start public speaking. Really no idea, but that's what happened. November 2017, I decided I wanted to do stand-up comedy, so I signed up for an open mic night at the Blue Jazz Cafe. I got to the cafe, I felt fine, I walked up the stairs, I felt fine, I turned the corner, and I saw the audience, and the nerves hit me like an absolute freight train. Because I've not always been the really charismatic, confident, absolute performer that stands before you this evening. I used to get a wee bit nervous before I did comedy, and I'm really delighted to tell you that I've got past that. And, so I did for the first time what's become known amongst my peers as my pre-performance routine. So I stood at the back of the room and I kind of did this, pacing back and forward, hyperventilating and trying not to piss myself. And I was legitimately eyeing up the exit, thinking, is it too late to run away here? And I caught myself on, I said, right Matthew, these people are here to laugh, right? They don't know that you are nervous. So stand up there, fake it till you make it, smile at them and do your best. So I felt okay. So then the host gets up on stage, and the host was quite nice, and he's like, right guys, the next guy coming up on stage, it's his first ever attempt at stand-up comedy. So I want you to give him all your love, and all your energy, and all your support. Can you do that for me? And the largely Singaporean crowd went, yep. And I saw the host panic a little bit. He's like, no, seriously guys, this guy's gonna need some support. He's the most nervous man I've ever seen. So I walked up onto the stage absolutely furious with the host mate. I'm thinking, mate, why the fuck are you giving them clues? You know, let them make their own minds up about me if I'm nervous. So I rattled off this 3-minute performance at a speed that Busta Rhymes would have been impressed with, right? I'm fairly certain not one audience member understood any of the jokes. And suffice it to say, it didn't go particularly well. But unfortunately for me, and for you guys, as it transpires, it didn't go badly enough that I didn't want to keep trying it. So 5 years later, we're here, we've filled up the Projector X Theatre, and we're doing a 60-minute show. So I would just like to go through the rules, because I know you guys like that here. Audience participation is absolutely encouraged. If you feel they want to shout out a compliment or message of support, please feel free. If you want to go with a heckle, that's fine as well. Let's see how that works out. One of my favourite things about me doing comedy is not even the guy with the microphone is 100% sure what's about to happen next, right? So we'll just have to deal with it. The show is called Overthinker. It's a 60-minute show, and I agree that's a wee bit too long, if I'm honest with you. I think that's far too much. They've made me a lovely sign. I don't know why they chose to put my name in such absurdly big writing. I feel like I know what my name is. I feel like I'm quite comfortable. And apparently, as a comic, you're supposed to come up and say, if you like what I did, please follow me on Instagram. Well, you can if you want to. But just full disclosure, it's quite boring. It's just pictures of me playing golf with my friends. It's nothing exciting. And yeah, I've got my little headquarters here. I've got a little seat in case I get tired. I like to drink non-alcoholic Heinekens because we'll come to that later. And I've just got a little bit of paper here. It's just got a few notes on it just in case I forget what I'm about to say. Because that genuinely is my biggest fear, folks, right? My biggest fear is not standing up here in front of a room full of people and telling a joke that you guys don't laugh at. Because here's the secret. That happens all the fucking time. It really doesn't matter. My biggest fear is standing up in front of a room full of people who've come to see you. They've paid their money, they've got their babysitters in, they're excited to see you. You stand up here on stage, supposed to be competent, you forget what you're about to say, and you look like a bit of a dick, right? That's my biggest fear. And it's only really happened once to me before, but it was at the biggest stage I've ever done, right? It was at the Esplanade Concert Hall, in front of 500 people. 500 people, there's 250 here tonight, this is a piece of piss, don't worry about it, right? 500 people, right? And I was killing the set, I was smashing the jokes, they were really enjoying it, I was bang on time, and I told this joke, and I had budgeted in about this much time for clapping, and about this much time for laughter, right? But in front of 500 people, there was this much clapping, and this much laughter, which incidentally isn't supposed to be a bad thing for a comedian. But my wee brain could not handle this. I was like, fucking hell guys, just shut up and let me get on with my jokes, please. And I think God was watching, and God kind of intervened, and God was like, all right then, Mr. Comedian, too much laughter, was it? And he took everything out of my head, right? And I blanked for 40 excruciating seconds in front of 500 people. It was horrendous. In the middle of this, I had this ridiculous realization that I'm a comedian who sometimes gets distracted by laughter. Which makes me the worst comedian this world has ever produced. So, if I'm ever kind of over here this evening doing my thing, and by doing my thing I mean shifting around very nervously, touching myself, the usual, and then you kind of see me go, oh no, don't panic. I'm just going to seamlessly, you won't even notice, I'll just wander over here, and I'll just pretend to have a little drink of my juice, and I'll put it down and just casually just have a look. And then we'll be fine. Everything is going to be fine. Everything is going to be fine. The second one was for me. The second one was for me. So, guys, I really wanted to start off the show by showing you that I'm a comedian who's got the finger on the pulse with what's going on in the world. So I wanted to talk about some current affairs. But I wrote this bit about 9 weeks ago. So we're just going to call it recent affairs, okay? I read a story about a UK TV presenter who got themselves into hot water because they accidentally misgendered the singer-songwriter Sam Smith, right? Alliteration fully intended, right? Now, seemingly, Sam Smith is a non-binary person, which means that they do not identify as a man or a woman, and therefore they prefer to be referred to as they or them rather than he or him. Fair enough, right? So what happened is, he, the TV presenter, called them, Sam Smith, him, right? Now, he, the TV presenter, right, didn't say anything bad about them, Sam Smith. He, this is a really efficient way to tell stories. It's a really good way to fill an hour, right? The guy didn't say anything bad, right? From what I understand, he just said something like, I like Sam Smith, I think he's a wonderful person, I really love his music, and I wish him all the best. Now, naturally, after saying such a horrendous thing about another human being, there was uproar from the UK public that it had nothing to do with, incidentally. I don't even think there was a peep from them, Sam Smith. And it got me thinking, right, I reckon you should be able to identify as whatever and whoever you want, and you are well within your rights to say, I would prefer to be addressed as this, and I would really like it if you didn't call me that, and I wish everybody played by these rules. I wish we could backdate the rules 20 years and I could go back to school and have a much better experience. Because when you're in school, you don't get to choose what people call you. That's what the bullies do. Right, and I was a pretty easy target for bullies. This won't shock you, I was a nervous child. And I was a pretty easy target because, I mean, I was, all I ever really wanted to do, right, was to get through my day without being noticed, right, fly under the radar. But I wasn't very good at that because according to the doctors, I was obese, right? At 14 years old, I was 6 feet tall and I weighed 100 kilograms, right? Just for some context, I currently weigh 75 kilograms and I lost most of that weight off my body. Now, my name is Matt, and I was really fat. And kids are thick as shit, right? They could have gone with the easiest one, but I got lucky. See, I wasn't a hugely popular kid, but I got by in school because I used to make people laugh in the classroom, so they weren't mean to me, right? My second name is Chalmers. I don't know if you can see it up there. My second name is Chalmers. They went with Chunky Chalmers. Right, now Chunky Chalmers was a very, very generous description of what I looked like. It's a little bit like somebody calling me today Short Hair Matthew. Right? You can't choose your own nickname, right? I wish I could have chosen my own nickname. I met one guy in my life who tried to choose his own nickname, and it didn't end well for him. And this guy was actually quite impressive. He was the captain of the golf team, and he went out to play one day in a competition, and on the front nine, he had a hole-in-one. Impressive, right? On the back nine of the same game, he had another hole-in-one, which is amazing. Now, a hole-in-one in golf is also called an ace, right? So this guy swaggered into school the next day with this big dick energy, right? And I think his first mistake was overestimating how many people gave a shit about golf, if I'm honest with you, right? But he's like, guys, you know, based on my golfing exploits yesterday, I'd really like it if you guys called me Ace. And the bullies thought about it, briefly, and they said, no, you've already got a nickname. His nickname was Herp, H-E-R-P. Herp was short for herpes because he was fucking irritating and he would never go away. That's the way a nickname works, right? My favourite nickname in the world, right, was a boy in school, and he was the best athlete in the class, right? He had muscles on his muscles, he was good at everything. And I always admire him for this. He never shied away from admitting his favourite thing in the world was ballet. Honestly, I promise you this is true. So we used to go and see him around the school, and he'd be walking around, you know, all stacked, wearing this black lycra leotard thing, right? Until the end of time, his nickname will be Leotardo DiCaprio. That's the way a nickname works. Nothing bad happens when someone calls you a nickname. Now, I don't know if they do it in Singapore nicknames, but I wanted to give you an example of how I would come up with a nickname for someone, and I wanted to choose someone in popular culture so that we could all understand, right? Has anybody watched The Last of Us, that programme? Yeah? Brilliant. Okay, good. Yes. So, The Last of Us, if you haven't seen it, is this kind of post-apocalyptic programme. Something's happened, the humans have survived, they're trying to hurt each other, there's some zombies involved, it's pretty harrowing stuff. Now, the main character's name in real life is Pedro Pascal. Pedro Pascal is quite a well-known guy. And Pedro Pascal's character, his job in this series is to look after this underage girl, she's about 14 or 15, and he's got to help her get from A to B. Now, if Pedro Pascal's friends haven't cleverly decided to nickname him Pedo Pascal, they've missed a massive opportunity for a nickname, right? Nothing bad happens when someone calls you a name that you don't absolutely love. It really doesn't. I mean, think about it. These guys have gone on to be successful. Herb Saunders has gone on to be a very successful golf professional, right? Leonardo DiCaprio, I can assure you, is paddle-barraying his way around Wall Street as we speak. This guy was really clever as well, right? Chunky Chalmers, well, he spends a lot of his weekends with a microphone begging strangers for love and affection, so maybe there are some self-esteem related issues with nicknames, I don't know. But my thoughts are this, right? You should be able to identify as whatever you want, but don't get too precious about if someone calls you the wrong name by accident, is my opinion. Because I think this identifying thing can go a bit far. You see, I read another story about a 69-year-old Dutch man who does not believe in the concept of time. Right? He believes that time is a social construct that's been created by the powers that be to keep us under control, to keep us managed, and to keep us doing things the way the government should want us to be doing them, right? So he's 69 according to his birth certificate, but he identifies as a man in his mid-40s, right? Because he thinks it's going to be much better for his career and dating prospects. Well, I'll tell you what's not going to be brilliant for your dating prospects, Mr. Cloggy, right? When you get a bug back to your house, she thinks you're in your mid-40s, you take off your underpants and your 69 big dangly Dutch balls fall out. That's not going to be very good at all, because Shakira said it right, mate, your hips don't lie. Right? But neither do his balls, and he's definitely not 40. So one of the main challenges I had when putting together 60 minutes worth of material was coming up with intelligent segues that would cleverly link one story with the next. So I was out for a walk this morning, and I had planned to do this later in the day, but I saw there was no queue at the barber shop. So I thought, brilliant, I'll just go and get my hair done now. Why is that funny? Bald people still have to go and get their hair done, by the way. You don't just wake up one day with a really shiny, slippery head and slide off your pillow into the rest of your life. You guys don't know, man. Being bald's hard. I think you might be able to tell that I'm not absolutely over the moon with the fact that I'm bald now. This was never the plan for me, as it goes. But I believe in God, right? And I believe that God makes every single tiny little thing happen for a reason, which is another way of saying he did this to me on purpose. And if that's the case, my God's actually got a wonderful sense of humour, because my God has blessed me with hair in unnecessary quantities. In every conceivable location on my body, apart from the one that I actually wanted. It's highly frustrating. Anyway, I got to the barber shop, I looked through the window, and that's when I saw the thing about Singapore that I absolutely hate the most. And can you feel the tension? And the room just shift there a margin, right? You guys didn't mind me about 9 seconds ago, and now every single Singaporean audience member is just looking at me going, tread carefully. Chibai. And if you don't know the word Chibai, it's the Singaporean way of saying the C word. It's C-U-N-T. It's not a very nice word. I typically don't use it to get a joke out, but I did think doing it in a second language made it a little bit more intelligent. And the thing is, C-U-N-T is not a particularly nice word, but Chibai's a wonderful word, right? You can't say Chibai without smiling. You should try it, right? Now, the other reason I love the word Chibai is it really reminds me of my grandmother. And my grandmother was an old kind of idiosyncratic Scottish woman, right, which is code for she was a little bit mental. And she wouldn't just say normal goodbye to you when she said goodbye. She came up with funny ways. Now, a normal one in Scotland is they've combined the words cheerio and goodbye to come up with cheery bye. Cheery bye, son, see you next week, cheery bye. I'd obviously heard that word plenty of times before as a youngster, but then I moved to Singapore and never thought about it again. Now, one day I was walking home from work and I was away in my own kind of mind, and I turned left and I bumped quite heavily into this young man who was clearly on his way back from doing his national service. And I had cleverly deduced this because he was clad from head to toe in this black, white and grey urban camouflage army material suit thing. Now, I'm not pretending what I said to this guy was amazingly funny or revolutionary comedy, but it was right off the cuff, so it was a wee bit funny. I said, "Mate, I'm terribly sorry, I genuinely didn't see you there." Now, if this wee guy had been Scottish, English, Irish, Afghanistani, anywhere else in the world, right, we would have had a little laugh, a man nod, and getting on with our day, because let's be honest, it was fucking hilarious. The Singaporean boy looked at me as if I had just wandered into his house and slapped his mum. He stared me straight in the face and just said, "Chi bye," and walked away. And I was shocked. I was like, "Mate, cheery bye to you too." I think this week I must have studied in Glasgow or something. Anyway, if you're interested, the thing I hate the most about Singapore is, you know when you see old people, and that's not the end of the sentence, by the way. You know when you see old people and they're still working well into their 70s, 80s and beyond, and they're clearly not doing it because they want to, they're doing it because they need to, and it makes me very sad. However, Singapore, you do have a very low crime rate, which is good. Because if you didn't, let's be honest, most of your security guards would be able to do very little about it. Why are they all so old? I went into DBS Bank the other day. The security guard was at least 90. His name was Jack. He was just standing up, sleeping. What's Jack gonna do in the event of a bank robbery? This old duffer could barely fight off a stiff breeze, man. Working until you're 80 cannot be good for you. And you see, when you work till you're 80 and you work in the barber shop, it's not good for anybody. I walked in, I sat down, I acknowledged the fact that the stylist, and I use that word loosely, was about 75 years old. And the kind part of my brain said, "Right, Matthew, don't be ageist. Potentially this old man is very skilled and experienced at cutting hair. And let's be honest, he doesn't need to be that good to do yours." Right, now whilst that might have been true, it really didn't matter. Because this old man had given up on his craft years ago. He didn't give a shit. This old guy, he wasn't even aiming at the customer. He was just chatting to his mate over his left shoulder whilst indiscriminately jabbing this little boy in the back of the head with clippers, right? And I thought, no, this is my big day, I'm not letting this guy near me. This guy was so bad at cutting hair, I genuinely thought he could mess mine up, right? So I did what any self-respecting adult man would do. I got up, I faked a phone call and ran away. And I decided to get myself back to somewhere that I knew I could get a good haircut, right? Which is Raffles Place, MRT, basement, right? Because there's two places down there that you can go, and it doesn't matter which one you choose, because they've both got exactly the same unique selling point. You've got the EC House, and you've got K Cuts. And both of these places prioritise value and efficiency over style. Now, K Cuts is my favourite one because they do not overpromise, but they often underdeliver. But they're so honest about it, right? It says it on the window. It says, "This haircut will cost you $14. And this haircut will take a maximum of 10 minutes. And due to the time constraint that we've imposed on ourselves, there's only a certain amount of styles that we will do, right? And underneath this is just a picture of the styles that they will do, and it's basically a picture of 8 of the shittest haircuts you could possibly imagine. Mine's number 1, incidentally, right? And I'm alright with that. So I go in and I am met by this kind of 19-year-old Chinese Singaporean hipster hairdresser guy who's cut my hair many times in the past. And I tried to go to pay, and this young man reminds me very quickly that K-Cuts is the hairdressing establishment that time has forgotten. Because despite the fact I'm standing in the middle of the central business district of one of the most technologically advanced countries on the planet, this young man says to me, "I'm sorry, sir, your debit card doesn't work here. We only take cash." That wasn't really an attempt at a punchline there, folks. I just think that's fucking mental, right? I was in Malaysia 2 weeks ago. I was in Malaysia and I paid for a haircut with my smartwatch, right? How badly are K-cuts struggling if they can't keep up with Malaysia? And look, I know that's a bit of a cheap joke about Malaysia, and I'm sorry, I'm just a bit angry with Malaysia, because as you can see, I did not return from Malaysia with my smartwatch. Fucking Malaysia. Anyway, so the guy sits me down, and as I said, this guy's cut my hair many times in the past. He knows what I want. It's quite clear what I want. You know, given that my hair's about 3mm longer than it is right now, right? But one of my favourite things about K-cuts, right, is the staff are not allowed to skip any steps in their training process, right? So he sits me down, he points up at the menu of shit haircuts, and he says, "Mate, which one do you want?" Well, mate, unless you've recently become particularly skilled with hair extensions, gonna just shave my head again. And he does, to be fair. It takes him all of 3 minutes and I'm back to shiny, you know? And I've got 7 minutes to play with, but there's plenty of time for some silly stuff to happen, because two things happen at the end of a haircut when you're a bald man. One of them's funny, one of them's pointless. The pointless one is when the guy who has just shaved every visible hair off your head, thus leaving you bald, feels the need to stand behind you with a handheld mirror and just show you exactly how bald you are from every conceivable angle. And I really don't know what he does that for. As if I've just missed something all these years and I'm going to turn around and go, "Fuck me, mate, I didn't even know I had a ponytail." The funny thing that happens at the end of the haircut is only really funny in this particularly niche context, so please pay attention. Let's not forget what's going on here. You've got a 36-year-old hairy Scottish man getting his hair cut by a 19-year-old Chinese Singaporean hipster hairdresser boy. Now, I do not spend much of my day wondering about the body hair situation of a 19-year-old Chinese Singaporean hipster boy, but if I had to guess, I'd imagine that he and I have got different expectations of where hair starts and stops growing. I reckon that he thinks hair starts growing on his head, stops at his neck, avoids his face at all costs, stops for a bit, starts again, stops. He is not aware that for a hairy Scottish man, hair starts growing at the end of your toes. It grows all the way up the front and all the way up the back. Stops at your neck for a rest. The side of your face is fine, but fuck your shiny head. So when he goes to do my neckline, which is the end of any haircut, he starts pulling at my shirt. And he's expecting the hair to stop. But the hair doesn't stop. So he just keeps pulling. And if this wee guy pulls any harder, I'm about to be shirtless. And then our eyes meet in the middle of the mirror and he's just looking at me going, "What the fuck even are you?" The first time this happened, this wee guy had to go and get his supervisor and have a sit down. And then all the other stylists came and looked at me as if I was some sort of medical experiment. I don't know, I didn't think that was a very nice way to treat your customers. But the good thing about me is last year I made a very good decision in my life and I decided to stop drinking alcohol after a very successful career. And thank you. And you know, I'm much more calm these days, I'm much less emotional. I control what I can control and I don't let other things wind me up. So I got up, I walked up to the guy, says, "Mate, thank you very much for cutting my hair. Cheerio, bye." And now there's only one place I can go to for a haircut in Raffles. Anyway, just a quick question. It's a bit personal, but does anybody need a piss? Anybody else need a piss? If you need a piss, please go for a piss. Honestly, I'm only joking. Go fire away. No, honestly, I went to watch a big show a couple of weeks ago, and I needed a piss. And the second half was excruciating, right? And I don't want you to miss out on all the amazing jokes, right? Just because you need a piss. So please, if you need a piss, go and have a piss. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Singapore. I love Singapore. I really want to stay in Singapore as well. So I've recently applied for my PR, and I've been going out with a Singaporean girl for about 6 months, and those two things are entirely coincidental, incidentally. I met a wonderful girl. She's the most intelligent human being I think I've ever encountered in my life, which, quite frankly, is fucking annoying. Because she's got an answer for everything. It's literally like spending an awful lot of time with ChatGPT, right? Because she's got an answer for everything. But I think it might be some slightly kind of flawed beta version of ChatGPT, because sometimes I don't even input questions, and it just fires out a load of useless piss that I'm not even interested in. But she's a beautiful, sentient woman. She's very well managed and put together. She's got a really good job. She's got the most amazing HDB you've ever seen. That's heavy duty booty. She does, I'm not talking down, she's very proud of it. Honestly, I don't know how she's achieved this. She's got the face of a Chinese Singaporean angel and the bottom of Kim Kardashian's stunt double. I think it's a sight to behold, it really is. But we met on Tinder, and I don't really want to talk about Tinder, it's just a kind of thing you have to do these days. And we went on a few dates, and I knew very early on that there was something there. I feel like it's really, these days, you need to accept that you're lucky if you meet someone who just totally matches your energy. And as you can imagine, when she and I get together, it's pretty electric. Anyway, it was about the 5th date, I think, and it was at the end of the date, and it became quite clear that both parties were keen to move the relationship to the next level, physically. And unfortunately, it couldn't happen that particular night due to logistical and menstrual reasons. So she said to me, "Look, boy, I'm busy this week, come round to my house on Thursday." She says, "Bring your pyjamas." She said, "You can stay the night and fill your boots." I can't remember exactly what she said, but that was it. So Thursday came, I finished my work, I was quite excited, I ran home, high-fived a few people, the usual. I got a shower, I got cleaned up, I booked a taxi, but I knew I had to stop in 7-Eleven to pick up the essentials. Now, the essentials for this trip were some breath mints and a small box of condoms, not to be mistaken with a box of small condoms. I stopped at 7-Eleven to pick up some breath mints and a small box of normal size condoms. Now, anybody who's ever bought condoms before knows that there's two options when it comes to the size of the box, right? You can purchase a small box of condoms, which contains 3 condoms, and that'll cost you approximately $13.70. Alternatively, you can invest in a large box of condoms, which contains 10 condoms, and that'll cost you $35 or so. Now, the budding mathematicians in the group will have clearly noted that it makes far better financial sense to purchase the large box of condoms because it represents much better value per condom. When times are tough, folks, I don't know what you're laughing at, right? Rent's just gone up, right? These are the sorts of small decisions that you can make that will help you ease through these uncertain financial times. Now, despite this, I still decided to buy the small box of condoms. And it's not because I'm from Scotland and I'm particularly tight with my money. It's also not because I'm a realist and I know that statistically speaking I won't get through these 10 condoms before she realises that she just wants to be friends. I bought the small box of condoms because I happen to think you would need to be a complete and utter lunatic to turn up at the house of a woman you are yet to have sex with, brandishing a giant box of 10 condoms. It's a little bit aggressive if you ask me. And also, 3 condoms is all you need for a first visit, right? You need 1 condom for your opening attempt, right? If that goes well, you'll need another one for the next morning. And it's always just good practice to have one up your sleeve for emergencies. And I don't even really know exactly what I mean by emergencies. I just know that once when I was younger, I only had one condom, it was dark, I tried to put it on. I think I put it on back to front and it shot off into the darkness, never to be seen again. Right? So 3 condoms is all you need, right? So there I am in 7-Eleven, standing in front of this big kind of condom console thing, realising that I am very much out my depth here. Right? Because I've not bought condoms in a long time. Prior to these 5 dates, I was in a long-term relationship. And anybody who's ever been in a long-term relationship knows that when you're in one, you don't need condoms. Because you trust each other. And in our case, because we had stopped having sex. Right? So, there I am standing in front of the condom console thing, right? And it's just like, there's too many options now. There's ribbed condoms, dotted condoms, flavoured condoms. I don't care what they taste like, that's never bothered me. Right? I'm kind of looking at these condoms like, maybe the names will help. The names don't really help you. These ones here, the first ones are called Durex Comfort XL. Comforts XL sounds like an option when you're booking a taxi. The next ones I saw were called Durex Mutual Climax. Well, that's good. Durex are producing optimistic condoms these days. Incidentally, Durex Mutual Climax have got quite a cool kind of unique selling point. There's this anaesthetic gel that goes inside the condom, right? It's supposed to numb the man so he doesn't finish too quickly. You wouldn't want to put that one on back to front. It's just making a hard game harder. The third one that I saw the name, and I apologise in advance, this one's really stupid, but these ones were called Durex Ultra Light. Well, you'd hope so. They wouldn't be much use to you if they were ultra heavy. Faster, Matthew, faster. I'm going as fast as I can. They're pretty heavy. Sorry, that one was more for me. Anyway. So anyway, the condom thing, you know, I mean, I must be doing all right with these condoms because, you know, we're still together and we've actually just moved in together, which is kind of cool. Well, thank you very much. Go on then, give her a big cheer while this guy goes for a piss. Come on. Well done, mate. You can do it. You can do it. Yay! So, yeah, we've just moved in together, and you know, naturally, there's some kind of teething issues with this stuff, and I think it's just men and women, right? You know, we've got different expectations, and we worry about completely different things, right? The other day, she came home, and she was worried that the new scented candle set that she had purchased was not going to match the colour scheme of the living room. A genuine crisis, apparently. A few days later, I'm worried that if she keeps on forgetting to blow them out on her way to bed, they're going to burn the fucking house down, right? It's just different things we worry about, different expectations. And my expectations were wrong with living with a woman, right? And I admit that, but it's not my fault. I was given bad advice as a youngster. I was in university. I was 18 years old and a little bit wet behind the ears, as they say. And there was a guy in our class who was about 5 years older than everybody else, right? And he was amazing with women. He was a Lothario. We thought he was an absolute dating genius, right? Turns out he was just an idiot who hadn't passed the first year of university after 5 attempts, right? We should not have been listening to this man. But he said to me, Matthew, when you live with your girlfriend, it's amazing. He said, you get to have sex whenever you want it. Starting to think this guy's girlfriend might have been inflatable. Right, he said, guys, you see when you live with your girlfriend, it's amazing. It's just unlimited hand jobs and blow jobs. Good for him. In my house, it's seemingly just jobs. Just unlimited list of jobs that you've got to do on a regular basis, and I don't mind the job. You know, I kind of pull my weight a wee bit, but I found my lane, right? I found I actually quite like doing laundry. I like laundry. I like standing out in the balcony in the sunshine, hanging stuff up at peace with my thoughts. It's lovely. But I was doing some laundry the other day, and it was fairly uneventful, to be honest. But I noticed something that made me laugh, and I feel like if I tell it to you guys just the right way, you might laugh as well. I suppose that's really what we're doing here, isn't it? But I noticed that women have got an incredible variety of underpants. That's not a joke, that's a fact. And it's in stark contrast to men who typically commit to only one style. And it's the first big decision you ever make as a man. Right, about 13 years old, you have to decide until the end of time, am I going to be a boxer shorts boy or a Y-fronts weirdo, right? And that's it, decision made. But women, right, the size and material usage spectrum is vast. It is so vast it would have any sane man wondering, you know, how on earth are all these different underpants designed to fit the same woman's arse? Honestly, I was doing laundry thinking, am I doing laundry for the whole building here? Seriously? I mean, think about it. At one end of the scale, you've got the G-string, right? Now, the G-string to me is a marvel of fashion design. How they managed to do so much with so little, I will never know. But I think it might be quite difficult to keep track of all your G-strings. Like, not even Rain Man would be very good at guessing how many G-strings there were in a big balled up pile of G-strings, right? It's like asking somebody to guess how many bits of spaghetti there are in a bolognese, right? You could have a guess, you'd be wrong. Now, after the G-string, you've got the humble thong. My personal favourite, because at least it leaves a wee bit to the imagination. Now, after the thong, you might move on to the white cotton panties, popularised by Japanese pornography. Somebody told me. And after that, you might move on to the hot pants before you get onto the French knickers. And look, I don't have that much against the French, right? But why do they get their own knickers and no other country gets their own knickers? Every country should get their own knickers. I would like to see some Singaporean knickers. I don't really know what they'd do. I think they'd be quite efficient. Maybe just like a little pouch for your Easy Links card or something. You can freak everybody out when you get in on the bus. I don't know. Now, I don't know how many other niches of knickers there are in this big kind of spectrum. I do know, however, what's at the other end of the size spectrum. And these seemingly are the underpants that my girlfriend turns to in times of need and support. And I don't know what you guys call them, but in Glasgow we call these the granny pants. And if the creator of the G-string did so much with so little, no expense was spared when it came to the granny pants. I put my hand into the washing machine, I pulled out a pair of granny pants. I genuinely thought I had picked up a pillowcase. It was like hanging up the Financial Times, man. I had to take a step. And that's right. I've not getting loads of ages now, how much it is. I've not learned much since I lived with this woman, but I have learned this. I am far less worried about the house fire situation now. If I ever wake up at night and our house is burning down, the terror that I feel offset marginally by the soothing scent of a lavender candle. I'm not even going to panic. We're going to wake her up, calmly walk to the balcony, grab 2 pairs of granny pants on the way, jump off and parachute her way to safety. So, what else are we going to talk about? I'm not sure if I'm going to be one of these people who gets married, which is good because I keep telling stories about my girlfriend's bum. That's maybe why I've been single for a while. I'm just not sure, right? I've seen lots of my friends go from being normal to being married, and I just don't know if I want to do that. I've seen my brother. My brother used to be a pretty cool guy, and then he got married, and I've just seen the progress, particularly since he's become a dad. Now, I love watching him as a dad, I really do. It's amazing to see your brother as a dad. I love being an uncle, I love being Uncle Matt. I love going round to the house, but I do have to vet invitations now. Because once I accepted an invitation to participate in a play date, which ended up being a lot less fun than it sounded. And a play date, if you don't know, like me, is when one couple from within the friendship group invites all the other couples from within the group round to their house. The other couples get to leave their children for us to look after while they piss off into town to get fucked up on mimosas all afternoon. It's the worst deal in the history of deals, right? Telling you that. So I entered this house and I was immediately overwhelmed by the sheer number of babies that were present. right? My sister-in-law was on one couch with her 2 babies. A friend was on the next couch. She had an old baby, but also a new baby. There were about half a dozen helpers running around with a football team's worth of babies. And then there was just a little loner baby in the corner, and I don't even know who the owner of the loner baby was. But suffice it to say, there was a lot of babies. And I was a wee bit uncomfortable, so I did what I do in any social situation where I feel a bit uncomfortable, which incidentally is any social situation. I kind of backed up and tried to blend in. It was hard because I was quite a lot taller than the rest of them. And my wee nephew Fraser, who was 2.5 at the time, he spotted me and he raced up to me like a hurricane. And I went down to pick him up to give him a cuddle, as I typically would do. But halfway down, I could smell what he was packing. So I bailed and I ruffled his feathers here and skedaddled him. Right? Now, just to be clear, if I had been watching him by myself, I would have changed his nappy. But I wasn't, so I didn't. Right? I said, Stephanie, that's his mum. I said, Stephanie, your son's needing changing. Now, Stephanie entered the fray with an unconvinced look on her face, which puzzled me. But in fairness, I'd just been outside in the fresh air. Maybe she was just really used to the strong smell of shit that was engulfing her apartment at the time. I won't judge her for that. I will, however, judge her for what she did next. She found her son, she picked him up, she placed his nappy directly in front of her face, and she gave him a very aggressive sniff. Kind of like... It was almost like she was doing a really, really long line of cocaine. Which is ridiculous, because I know for a fact she doesn't even do that anymore. And I just couldn't believe this, right? Because the Lord has kindly blessed me with 5 working senses with which to navigate this world, right? There's at least 3 I would have chosen before diving in with my nose. I would have held my breath and had a look. I don't know, picked up the baby, gave him a wee nappy density and temperature check, but no. She's a mother in the midst of a play date. She doesn't have time for that. So she has to dive nose first into this ridiculous game of nostril Russian roulette. Right, where, incidentally, there's never going to be a winner. Right, because at least in normal Russian roulette, yes, it's dangerous, right? But there's a 5 out of 6 chance you're not going to shoot yourself in the head. This woman had a 100% chance of deeply inhaling the contents of a baby's nappy. And it's not like if she sniffed it and it was clean, suddenly the joke was on me. You just sniffed a baby's arse, what's wrong with you, right? So, I just couldn't handle this as a decision. I started worrying. I'm like, if these sorts of decisions are getting made around here, what else is going on? Right? So I had to find my brother, right? I had to ask him, because if he was condoning this behaviour, I was never coming back here. So by the time I found my brother, right, he had his own problems, right? He was scratching at his eye like this. I said, mate, what's wrong with you? He said, mate, I think I've got conjunctivitis. I said, okay, mate, calm down. I know you're tired, and you have been for 6 years. But don't worry, I'll go to the pharmacy and pick you up some drops. Now, I'm about 2 steps away from the front door and my freedom. When the lady who's just had a baby stands up and goes, you don't need to go to the pharmacy. She says, I've got the solution to conjunctivitis right here. And I said, really? That's a coincidence. What have you got? Anybody know? Breast milk. I googled it, and you're absolutely right. I don't give a fuck. Surely we can all sit here tonight and agree that putting somebody else's breast milk into your eye on purpose has got to be a bad idea. And I don't like bad ideas, right? I like good ideas, right? I've got a friend, John, he's a raging alcoholic, right? And recently he had a good idea. He said, Matthew, I'm sick of this life, this drinking. I want to go clean and sober. Will you come with me to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting? I said, John, of course I will. Let's do it. Now, does anybody know where the main Alcoholics Anonymous meeting is closest to the Central Business District of Singapore? I was not expecting a flurry of hands, let's be fair, right? I promise you, it's in Boat Quay. I promise you, it's in Boat Quay in a small meeting room directly above a pub, and that is not a lie. Now, that's a bad idea. That's like putting a sex addicts meeting in the middle of the Orchard Towers and just hoping for the best. It's a bad idea. But both of these ideas are still much better ideas than putting a stranger's breast milk in your eye. Right, and I don't even care that it works, right? That's just science. I want to know how they found out that it worked in the first place. No wonder it took scientists so long to fix COVID if they were busy doing these experiments. They must have found this out by accident. There must have been a tired eye doctor, right? He can't be very good at his job because he keeps catching conjunctivitis off a patient. Right, he goes home, he's knackered after a day of incompetence, right? He sees his wife, she's sitting on the sofa, she's feeding the baby. This silly woman's really tired. She's hosted a play date by herself. This story must have been on a Sunday because the helpers weren't there. What? They were away down East Coast Beach having a picnic. Let them have the day off, man. Right? He goes in to give his wife a wee kiss on the forehead. He goes in to kiss the baby. The baby coughs, her boob slips a bit and... Oh, fuck. Wait. Fixed? That's never happened before, right? So, look, I was so excited to see how my brother was going to deal with this, right? Because back when my brother was a normal guy, right, he used to love arguing. He would love arguing that black is white and white is black. He would love debate and everything. Now his only debate is, Steph, which swimming t-shirt should I wear to the pool? You know, it's the sort of things, right? And I couldn't wait to see what was happening. He was looking at Steph. Steph was looking back at him with the married don't you fucking embarrass me eyes. And I've never seen such a defeated man as he just slinked his way over to the sofa. He just sat down and said, go on then, put it in the left. A bit like that guy who's sleeping, amazing. And of all the things I was disappointed about that day, of all of them, my biggest disappointment was when she put it in, she used a bottle. Don't judge me, man, I was single at the time. Any day you see a boob is a good day. Right guys, I think that's us almost there. I wanted to finish with one last story, and it's a bit of a kind of personal one. I think it's something I probably just want to get out. I think it's a story, there's three parts to it, right? And it's only a quick one, so don't worry. It's the day that I found out that my mother has got the worst sense of humour in the history of the world. It's a day that I had the most emotionally scarring incident of my entire life. And it's also a day that I realised that, you know, good things don't happen to me when I drink, right? So, I was 19 years old. I was living in Bahrain. That's where I used to live. I grew up in Bahrain. And I was playing in a golf competition, right? I'm a professional golfer by trade. I compete sometimes, I teach most of the time. And I got a big local support, right? There was loads of people following me around this course, right? I was on the 17th green. I was leading the event by one shot. And somehow, inexplicably, I managed to shit myself. And I don't mean that figuratively, like I bottled it or let my nerves get the better of me. I mean that I visibly, audibly shat myself in front of about 100 people. And I don't think I'm over it. And just to be clear, I didn't do it on purpose. Right, it wasn't some sort of weird strategy that I'd devised to confuse my opponent. It was an accident. Right, and it's a really sad story. And you know it's a really sad story when the sad bit isn't the guy shitting himself in front of 100 people, right? Well, my mate's dad had died the day before, right? Unexpectedly. It was fucking brutal, right? And he wanted to go out drinking, right? So we went out drinking, and I wouldn't normally do that before an event, but we did. I was supporting him. So about 3 in the morning, we've been drinking for hours. We got a kebab from a van. That's never a good sentence, is it really? Went to bed. I woke up about 2 hours later with the worst pain in my tummy I've ever had in my life. So I'm not going to go into detail, but I tried to go to the bathroom, nothing would happen. I had a shower, tried to go to the bathroom, nothing would happen. Got to the golf course, tried to go to the bathroom, nothing would happen. If I didn't go and tee off, I was going to be disqualified. So I went up, I teed off, headed it down the middle, and about, I don't know, 200 odd yards down the first fairway, I felt something in my tummy fall down. But I caught it with a clench. And I didn't know what to do from there because there was hundreds of people watching. So I kind of had to play the rest of the game a wee bit like a penguin. Now, I don't know the science behind this, but I was playing amazing. I think it's something to do with like the tension that I had in my tummy, but I was so efficient, I was hitting it really well. So I got to the 17th green, and I hit my ball, and it went on the green, and lots of clapping, and I kind of shuffled up, and the putt was about 10 metres away, and I didn't even look at it, I was just concentrating on not bursting. And I kind of hit this putt, and it meanders its way down, and it goes in. And the audience, the crowd just go mental, right? There's so much applause, right? And I do that thing that golfers do, and I went, yes! But when I clenched here, I forgot to clench here. And that's when it happened. And you play golf in shorts in Bahrain. So there was no getting around what I had done. Everybody in this audience of people watching, they started pissing themselves with laughter, as they very well should. I have been doing comedy for 5 years, I have never got a reaction like that again. It's fucking disappointing, right? So I'm looking into this sea of faces, just knowing what I've done, and I recognise these people. I'm like, oh yeah, there's my dentist, right, good. There's my school teachers, and I scan round, and there's one face who's not pissing themselves laughing, and it's my mum. And she's just doing this. And that's when I learned my mother's got the worst sense of humour in the history of the world. Because I don't care if it's your little boy, if you can't laugh at someone who's just publicly shat themselves, you're probably a wee bit dead inside. So guys, look, I had absolutely zero expectations for how this was going to go tonight. All I was hoping for was that there was going to be people show up who wanted to laugh. And I can't thank you enough for coming. You've made me hugely, hugely happy. So thank you so much for coming out. There's not that many cool things about drinking a non-alcoholic Heineken, I can assure you. But one of the things is, I know tomorrow I'm going to wake up and remember just how happy you've made me. So thank you very much for that. These aren't actually that bad, you know. My friend told me I should try one. He said they taste exactly like beer. And I tried one, and they do. As long as you've got a fucking good imagination. Thank you very much, people. Cheers.